Hello and welcome. This is the Money Show coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. I am Nancy. On today's edition of the program, we'll be looking at investing in Nigeria's agricultural value chain. Let me just give you a few facts. Of course, Nigeria has about 84 million hectares of arable land. About 40% of land utilization of that land is being utilized. We do have about 279 billion cubic feet of surface water. Yet, Nigeria seems to be importing what it can produce. As it stands right now, we spend over $11 billion importing rice, which we can produce here, importing wheat, which we can produce, importing sugar. Of course, we have sugarcane belts, importing what else again? Fish. So we spend over $11 billion yearly to import these food products. What can we actually do to make the agricultural sector more attractive and perhaps have our youthful population invest in agriculture? How can we also get investment from outside the country into the agricultural sector? That we'll be looking at today on the program. Of course, there's a new sheriff in town, President Muhammadu Buhari, and I guess also that he would be looking at that sector because he said that we need to diversify the economy away from oil, and if we want to diversify, agriculture is one of the sectors which we need to look at. There was, of course, so much talk in the last administration concerning what happened in agriculture. I agree that the last administration took agriculture from the basis of farming, of course, into agric business, you know, at least make Nigerians start seeing that there is the business side of agriculture. So agriculture has gone beyond farming. But the question, of course, that I've always asked at that time, I asked Dr. Akinwumi Adesina then, he's now the president of the African Development Bank, that how do we also see that development in all the value chains in agriculture? Because if you even take a product, for example, be it a food product or whether it's livestock or whatever, there are value chains along that process. So it's not just about tilling the soil, planting the seed, bringing it out, selling it in the market. Can we go beyond that and also start processing our food products? By that, we can actually create jobs. With that, we'll definitely create more infrastructure and we'll be food sufficient. We'll be able to feed ourselves. Don't also forget that it's been said that by 2050 that Nigeria will be the third largest population in the world. We can attain that if we can feed ourselves. You know, so we should begin from now to look at that agricultural value chain. I do think that President Buhari is looking at that. You know, perhaps I was listening to Femi Adesina just a moment ago. We had a chat, of course, before I came on air, where I took him up on what he said, that, okay, there's no economic blueprint now. When the president gets his team together, there will be a blueprint. And I did tell him, oh, come on, you know, the president should give us his vision, first of all, and say, I want to do this in agriculture, I want to do this in mining, I may continue with this policy, I may not continue with this policy. But it seems that everything is on hold right now till the ministers have been announced. That I also told him that I hope the president is seeing what's happening around the economy. The GDP is dropping, that's the GDP numbers dropping, unemployment is still high. What else again? They are not favorable numbers, so I think that a lot should be done as at now. So you can join the conversation. All you need to do is to go to our Facebook page. You can find us there at ABC Money Show Live. You can also find us on Twitter at The Money Show Live. You can also find me on Twitter at Nancy Ilo. Okay, we're in the month of September, isn't it? I hope you've registered for your bank verification number. I need to remind you today. In case you've not done that, please go and do that. Of course, there's still a window of opportunity till October 31, isn't it? Yeah, till the end of October. Not when it's 2 days to the time or a day to the expiration date. You start seeing Nigerians at the banks. And you start seeing a long queue, and they'll start calling again. Oh, no, the CBN hasn't done this. They should extend it. Please go and register for your bank verification number. I've been saying this, saying it, and I'm saying it again. Go and register for your BVN. All right, on our radio today, let's quickly give you what's on the headlines. Of course, the United States-based lender JP Morgan on Tuesday said Nigeria will be phased out of its government bond index by the end of September due to alleged lack of liquidity and transparency in the nation's foreign exchange market. JP Morgan had on January 16 placed Nigeria on the negative index watch on the government bond index. The American bank had warned that currency controls by the CBN were making Nigeria's bond market transactions too complex to meet its rules. JP Morgan's action could put the nation's $31 billion external reserves under threat, as it may lead to further massive sell-offs of Nigerian assets by foreign portfolio investors. Meanwhile, a joint press statement late last night by the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Federal Ministry of Finance, as well as the Debt Management Office, strongly disagreed with the premise and the conclusions upon which the JP Morgan's decision was made. According to them, the recently introduced order-based two-way FX market has resulted in the stability in the exchange rate in the interbank market over the past 7 months and largely eliminated speculators from the market. The CBN says that the continuous bid to strengthen the Nigerian financial market and enhance the nation's status as preferred destination for investors will continue, as several measures are being taken to improve the market. All right, let's move over to PENCOM right now. The agency has released guidelines for the withdrawal of pension funds in line with the provisions of the Pension Act of 2014. This new development will enable retirement services account, that's the RSA account holders, to make use of their pension fund balances to make acquisitions of their primary homes. Presently, Nigeria's contributory pension system is a function of the employee's salaries, 10% paid by the employer and 8% paid by the employee. Let's talk the Nigerian Stock Exchange on Tuesday. The market rose by about 105 billion naira, moving from 10.334 trillion naira recorded on Monday to 10.43 trillion naira. That's the market capitalization. The 1.2%, the 1.02% increase in the value of the stocks on the day's transactions was represented at around 30,358.87 points, up from 30,052.20 points it attained on Monday. A total of 226.648 million ordinary shares worth 1.99 billion naira were traded in 4,531 deals. So the market appreciated yesterday by about 1.02%. Okay, let's take this report on agriculture. Of course, since oil was discovered in Nigeria in the 50s, precisely 1956, in the Loiberi, the agricultural sector witnessed a decline. Of course, efforts have been made to revitalize the sector in order to make Nigeria food sufficient again and to increase the export potential of the country. Our reporter Phoebe Tukuro has more.
Although it is predominantly still an agricultural society, approximately 70% of the population engages in agricultural production at a subsistence level. Agriculture provided 41% of Nigeria's total gross domestic product in 1999. This percentage represented a normal decrease of 24.7% from its contribution of 65.7% to the GDP in 1957. Nigeria's wide range of climate variations allows it to produce a variety of food and cash crops. The staple food crops include cassava, yams, corn, cocoyams, cowpeas, beans, sweet potatoes, millet, plantains, bananas, rice, sorghum, and a variety of fruits and vegetables. The leading cash crops are cocoa, citrus, cotton, groundnuts, palm oil, palm kernel, beniseed, and rubber. They were also Nigeria's major exports in the 1960s and early 70s, until petroleum surpassed them in the 1970s. Chief amongst the exports destinations for Nigerian agricultural exports are Britain, the United States, Canada, France, and Germany. A significant portion of the agricultural sector in Nigeria involves cattle herding, fishing, poultry, and lumbering. In terms of employment, agriculture is by far the most important sector of Nigeria's economy, engaging about 70% of the labor force. Agricultural holdings are generally small and scattered. Farming is often on the subsistent variety, characterized by simple tools and sifting cultivation. These small farms produce about 80% of the total food, about 30.7 million hectares, which is about 76 million acres, or 3% of Nigeria's land area, are under cultivation. Nigeria's diverse climate, from the tropical areas of the coast to the arid zone of the north, makes it possible to produce virtually all agricultural products that can be grown in the tropical and semi-tropical areas of the world. The economic benefits of the large-scale agriculture are recognized, and the government favors the formation of cooperative societies and settlements to encourage industrial agriculture. Large-scale agriculture, however, is not common. Despite an abundant water supply, a favorable climate, and wide areas of arable land, productivity is restricted owing to low soil fertility in many areas and inefficient methods of cultivation. Decline in agricultural production in Nigeria began with the advent of the petroleum boom in the early 1970s. The boom in the oil sector brought about the distortion of the labor market. The distortion in turn produced adverse effects on the production levels of both food and cash crops. Government policies have a great role in improving the level of agriculture in Nigeria. Phoebe Tuku, reporting for The Money Show.
The lead economist at TTAC Africa says that in order for the economy to survive, President Buhari should enlist capable hands to fix the economy. Take a listen.
The economy doesn't belong to the president. It doesn't. The economy belongs to everybody. I am the economy, you are the economy. What his focus should be is on recruiting the right people that will fix the economy. And I know that there are brilliant minds around him. If he will use those brilliant minds is a totally different issue. So the economy is fixable. Is fixable, but we're saying don't let businesses die before you fix it. Don't let the economy get into a lull before you start fixing it. So I think he can fix it. I know if he hires the right people, he can fix it. So we need some strong message from the president saying this is the way we're going.
Let's quickly take a break, and when we come back, I'll be giving you, of course, the updates on the markets. That's when we come back in a minute. Do stay.
Is the use of
The Nigerian Stock Exchange on Tuesday appreciated by 1.02%. The All-Share Index finished at 30,358.87, while the market cap closed at 10 trillion naira margin. The value of shares traded finished at 1.99 billion ordinary shares, of course, for 1.9 billion naira on 226.6 million ordinary shares. If we move over to other African market, the Accra Our bros in Ghana is trading upside 0.5%, of course, just some minutes ago, while the South African market appreciated earlier today 1.38%. The Egyptian market is just a bit flattish. Moving over to the United States, where we saw U.S. futures are pointing to a strong open for Wall Street today, following a sharp rally in global markets. United States stocks closed more than 2% higher on Tuesday, as you can see on your screen, rebounding after a long weekend. Let's move over to Europe, where European markets rallied at the open today, boosted by positive German economic data and hopes of further stimulus measures in Asia that sent markets in the region higher. The Xetra DAX in Germany popped 2.11% at 10,488.20. Of course, still in Europe, the region's migrant crisis continues to dominate the agenda for national governments. Earlier today, the head of the European Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker, gave a State of the Union speech to the European Parliament and said that the EU must relocate 160,000 refugees within the bloc. Taking a trip to Asia, of course, where the markets are closed, we saw Asian markets, they were swollen up at the end of today's trade like they were on steroids as the positive momentum filtered from the U.S. market. It was a spectacular comeback, a monster rally for the Japanese market. Of course, the Japanese market was at the epicenter of trade today as investors' confidence got a boost from the strong rally in offshore markets. The Nikkei 225 appreciated by 7.7%, as you can see right there, while the Hang Seng of Hong Kong was up 3.7%. Let me go back a bit to Japan. The Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said today that he would seek to lower the corporate tax rates by at least 3.3%. All right, moving over to commodities. Crude prices rose in early trade in Asia as the market caught a tailwind from a strong performance in the United States and in Europe, although fuel markets remain generally dogged by oversupply. Oil prices, of course, have fallen almost 60% since June of last year on a global supply glut. Gold is firming above a three-week low today as the dollar nursed losses, but prices remain range-bound as traders wait for direction from the Fed on the timing of a U.S. rate hike. Cocoa is around $3,200 a metric ton. Let's move over to the Naira rates. The Naira against the dollar today at the official market, of course, according to the Central Bank of Nigeria, is at 197. Though at the parallel market is weakening, is at 223. The pound at the official window is 302. At the parallel market is going for 348, while the euro is at 218. That's the official as against the 247 parallel market rates. All right, those are the numbers for you. Let's quickly take a break to usher in my guest. I'll be looking at investing in Nigeria's agricultural sector value chain. Please send us your comments and your questions. Dr. Alba Gambo, who is the head of department crop production at the University of Maiduguri, will be joining me to put some kind of spice as well as bring his thoughts and perhaps give some insight into what this administration should do. I also want to hear from you. We'll be right back after this time out. To stay.
No, I don't think debit card makes us to spend more. What I rather say that a lot of us don't plan what we want to spend on. We buy things on impulse. So let's buy what we need, not what we want. Let's not easily get carried away, get attracted to things because they are fine, they are nice, We have to discipline ourselves. The issue is discipline. We need to discipline ourselves.
I use POS in my shop. The customer might come having the intention of buying a pair of shoes. At the end of the day, she might end up buying more clothes, more than what she expects. So I believe that when you use ATM, it will be more, as the people spend more when they use ATM.
Yes, I do, because when my mom gets her ATM out, all she does is go there and slots it in anything she wants to buy. She doesn't have to count her money. All she does is, and the money is gone.
If you don't get the ATM card, you will not spend money much. Because before you go the process of collecting money from bank, you had to. But if you have an ATM, you spend anyhow. Anywhere you go, you can collect money and spend.
People say that when you use ATM, you spend more. I don't believe that. If you believe that you spend more while using ATM, that means you don't have self-control. If you have self-control, even if anything you have, you manage it.
ATM make us to spend a lot of money because if you enter the market to buy some things and you have ATM, the thing can attract you to go and withdraw some money there. But if you don't have ATM, you just manage yourself and go home back.
Even myself, sometimes my own ATM, sometimes I used to spend much through my own ATM. That's why over 2 months now, let me say 3 months, my own ATM, I beg you to because much.
Yes, actually, people spend money more on ATM users. Like me, I don't use ATM because I spend more whenever I'm using ATM. So I've stopped anything ATM.
So I think it's actually, it makes people spend more than they actually budget. People nowadays actually work on budget, and most time when you have that particular amount of money you need to buy some certain things in the market, if you have an ATM card, you see what you like. I think you buy out of your budget, more like an impulse buying.
I don't believe that it has really increased our spending habits. If you are fond of spending money, even without ATM, you can still go to the bank and draw million and keep in your house. But ATM rather makes us to have a control over our money.
If like I'm not using ATM now, I will find it hard to go to the bank to withdraw money. I understand. But ATM, you just sharply you withdraw money and go.
All right, welcome back. In case you're just joining us, it's the Money Show reaching you from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We'll be looking at investing in Nigeria's agricultural sector value chain. Joining me right now to talk about this is Professor Gambo. I did say earlier on doctor, but he's a prof now, so congratulations, Prof.
Thank you very much, Nancy.
He's the head of the department, crop production, University of Maiduguri. So I have a teacher with me here, so I will be the student today. Welcome, Prof, and thank you for joining us. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. You know, Maiduguri will be shut out for quite a very long time. So it's really a great pleasure to be here once again. I thank you for the opportunity.
Tell me what business is like in Maiduguri, despite, you know, the insurgency and all of that. You know, I've been reporting it here that the insurgency, of course, will affect not just even lives. You know, a lot of lives have been lost, properties have been lost, a lot of people have been displaced. There's no economic life again because you're even thinking of your safety first. Tell me just in a few seconds.
Yeah, presently Maiduguri, the state capital, contains the inhabitants of 19 local government areas. Our population within the city town used to be about 1.2, but I'm talking to you now, we have about 4 million people within Maiduguri. So the 19 local government areas has been sacked completely. So all of them are within in various IDP camps. Virtually every secondary school and every higher education institution in Maiduguri is now being occupied by IDPs. And for the last 1.5 years, all our educational schools have been closed down because the IDPs are in there. In a particular IDP camp, you might find about 8,000 to about 11,000, 12,000. Then another serious issue is, you know, most of us are farmers. Borno is an agraricultural state. So because of the insurgency now, people have left their farms and they are now dependent on government for their daily livelihood. So the issue of agriculture in Borno State is at a level that is almost below zero. This year, the rainfall pattern has been excellent all over the country. Even in the Sahelian arid states, the rainfall pattern has been excellent. But unfortunately, with the very good rainfall, we have no farms and we have no farmers.
So there will be so much pressure, even on because the farmers are out of their farms already.
Definitely.
They are even talking about survival right now, so they are not there to farm anymore.
Definitely.
Then there will be pressure even on the little food, or perhaps the food that the IDPs eat are imported into Maiduguri, so to speak.
That's the situation we are in now, exactly. You know, before Maiduguri used to produce the best brown beans in the country, livestock, the dried fish, and so many other things. Now, because of what happened in Maiduguri, the price, even at Lagos, Port Harcourt, and in Abuja, you might wonder, have all risen up because of the insurgency in Borno State. The fish can no longer be taken out. The beans are no longer there to be, they are not even cropped, talk less of being taken out. And then, of course, the livestock, the cows, etc., are not being taken out. So this is the kind of scenario we have. But you know, Nigerians are very resilient people and hardy. So I'm sure in a very little time, definitely the insurgency will be over, and then we're back to business all again.
We're back to business, but it's not going to be easy.
It will not be easy.
It won't be
like
easy.
Even now, if you should ask them to go, because they just cannot go back to their localities, even if the localities are recaptured back by the Nigerian army, because there are plenty of bombs that have been planted, mines that have been dug and then planted, etc. So even if today you can ask all of them to go back to their respective, their local government areas, nobody can venture into the farm. The reason is you wouldn't know what is being dug and then planted in your farm. So that's the kind of scenario we have. Even if the insurgency ends today, there has to be a massive mop-up of all the local government areas and the farms and the schools and everything before the people can be able to return back.
Doesn't that worsen, especially what's happening in the northeastern part of the country? Because that's also an agricultural belt. Doesn't that even worsen the agricultural sector of Nigeria, so to speak, in terms of crop production, in terms of even livestock production and all of that?
The impact is great. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, I was looking at their books yesterday, the GDP contribution from the non-oil sector to the economy has dropped greatly. And one of the main reasons is the lake chart. The shores of the lake chart has always been a very great provider to the GDP. Most of the crops that you say are in the northeast are mostly from the shores of the lake chart. And the lake chart is dependent, about 30 million people are dependent on it across 6 different countries. So the epicenter of the insurgency is just within the lake chart region. So all the agricultural activities, the horticultural crops being grown, the fish, the livestock market, everything has been affected greatly. So that also has a kind of chain reaction on what we are having in the whole country. The price of beef has gone up, the price of fish has gone up, even vegetables, they've all gone up. The big pepper that are coming from the Damasak in Borno State, all these areas, the production is not on as I'm talking to you. So it's a kind of very blink, very blink feature, really.
Do you think that we are taking this seriously, or that we've taken the agricultural sector seriously? And that brings me to the question of, at what point did we get here that Nigeria is importing what it can produce? I said at the beginning of the show, for our viewers to understand the enormity that we spend over $11 billion importing just 4 food products. Nigeria tops the list for 4 food imports: wheat, rice, sugar, and fish. Just those 4. We spend about $11 billion. We shouldn't talk about other ones. So at what point did we get here? For a country that was, you know, touted in the 60s. I wasn't born in the 60s, so I didn't see the granite pyramids, but history taught me that, you know, that we had, you know, a lot of agricultural products and all of that. At what point did we get here?
In 2014, Nigeria, we consumed 500 million liters of fruit juices, 500 million liters. Out of that, about 99% was imported into the country with all the fresh fruits we have all over the country. So the disconnect happened, like you rightly said at the beginning, and then I saw it in the report with the getting of oil. You understand? So all the people that are supposed to be on the farms now shifted, and all of them became overnight oil contractors, etc. But it's still not late. We have to ask some few questions. Nigeria was known for some products.
Which products were we known for?
Oil palm. We used to be the greatest producer. Rubber, cocoa, kola nuts, hides and skin, the groundnuts, etc. We had people that were buying this from us. So we just have to pause and ask them. The people that are buying from us are still there. And the people that are doing the production are still also out there.
The people that are buying from us have found new markets.
I
remember, sorry to cut you short,
Yeah.
I remember when I was growing up, or when I was younger, my granddad was a very big rubber, farmer.
Yeah,
he
plantation.
trained, yes, big plantations,
Yes.
and I think the land is still there, but I don't know if my fathers and my uncles still keep the rubber, the rubber farm. But he trained his children, he was that much, in terms of, the rubber plantation. That was my granddad many years ago,
Yes.
So at that point, where's even the rubber plantation? Do we still cultivate rubber? And
We still do.
All palm and...
We still do. What I'm saying is the buyers are still out there and the production is being done. But then the problems are two. One, at what form were they buying at that point in time in the 60s and early 70s? At what form were they buying? All we need to do is to get them back and then ask them. In 1960s, you're buying this thing from us in raw form. At what form do you now want us to supply you? Because we are still ready to supply you back. So you find out that they'll tell you, no, we don't want the raw form. We want a kind of refined thing. You understand? Processed thing, packaged thing. That's the new thing. And that is the shift that we are looking for in the agricultural value chain. It's not the real production per se. We don't have much problems with the production, most especially in the other parts of the country. Leave the Northeast alone for some time now. In the other parts of the country, the production is going on perfectly in all the crops I've just listed. But then the problem is, how do you now process and then get it out to meet the best international practices? Most of the farmers do not have the idea. Melon seeds, ewedu. In Saudi Arabia, kola nuts, they measure it in 100 pieces. This big kola nuts. When you buy in Nigeria at 3,000 naira, the moment you land at Jeddah airport, once you cross the customs, some people will be coming asking you, goro, goro, goro. And then it goes for 1,000 reals. This 1,000 reals is about $300. That's approximately 50,000 naira. So just what you bought at the airport, 3,000 naira, and then 4 hours flight. Once you land, 1 hour clearance from the customs, you've made 50,000 naira out of it, a profit of 47,000 naira. And then another thing, but when you go to the borders with Niger, Jigawa, Kano, Sokoto axis, what people do, they just go to the bush, they cut grass, and then they export the grass across the border. Niger has a very high livestock population, but then it's an arid area. So even the grass for the livestock is a big problem. So you now see people capitalizing. They cut the grass in the bush in Nigeria, they take it across the borders, and then they sell it, they come back. What we are saying is the Export Promotion Council, the NAFDAC, they have come out with some things that the farmers and then the processors must do it. You cannot package cashew nuts in bottles. You cannot package cashew nuts in granules in bottles and then you expect it to reach Turkey and then the
How
other.
should we package it?
That's the question. You should do it in a very beautiful way. Plastic. You cannot take bottles out of the country. How many quantity can you be able to take? There should be some plastic packs. You understand? We have good designers. The fashion industry, Nigerians are making it all over the world. The music industry, Nigerians, we are very creative. So let's now get some packaging things, beautiful things. You understand? Just like the Pringles pack or any other pack, you just put cashew nuts from Nigeria and then it can go out. Then, of course, there is what they call the RASFF from NAFDAC. That's the Rapid Alert System on feeds and then foods. If you don't have the certification, if you take whatever out of the country, there will be an alert immediately, and then all the countries of the world will know that, Nancy has come in, has taken out 1,000 kilograms of ewedu, and then it has not certification. So please, everybody be on the alert. Make sure you don't touch it. Make sure you don't touch it. But then all these things, coincidentally, are being done free. So if I want to export melon ogbono, groundnuts, whatever now. All I need to do is go to NAFDAC. They look at how you're doing the production. They certify you. They give you that certificate. And then you can take your product anywhere in the world. What the farmers need to know is, how do you want us to supply you a particular product? Once that question can be answered from the clients outside, I think we're going to get it right.
How do we get to the point of our local farmers having contact with their counterparts abroad? You know, I'm talking about access to markets, not just here. But the thing is also, we need to even feed ourselves first, because I think a country of 184 million people and counting should be able to feed itself. Definitely. Our farmers here shouldn't be that poor. Definitely. The past administration did say it moved agriculture to business, so to speak. Yeah. The former Minister of Agric, who is now the President of Africa, African Development Bank,
that's right,
did quite a lot in terms of, though a lot of people had problems with him at that time. Oh, rhetorics, you are giving us figures, and all of that. But at least agriculture was now being looked at not as the whole and cutlass thing anymore. We got perhaps younger people into agriculture. A lot of people started having fish farms, you know, doing a lot of things, livestock, even oil palm, and all of that. So how do our farmers now have access to finance, access to market? How do they also have access to finance? Because all what you're saying is so beautiful and fantastic, but if they are not enabled, they won't be able to do all of that.
The manifesto of the ruling party now, and then from the body language of the government, they want to make agriculture the cornerstone of the economy through 3 ways. First, diversification of the economy from the oil to the non-oil sector, and Agric is the #1. Secondly, they want to use Agric for youth empowerment and job creation. Then thirdly, they're thinking of resorting of our industries. The rubber plantation you're talking about, the textile industries, etc. So I foresee a situation whereby in a very short while, there will be massive inputs into the production of oil palm, cotton for the textile industries, the rubber plantations we're talking about, etc. Traditionally, the real Nigerian farmer does not have access to a foreign market, traditionally, because we have middlemen. You go to the Jos Plateau now, you see all the women aching it out with all the fresh vegetables, etc. Every morning, some people like me rush to Jos, they bring it and then they sell it in Abuja here. The women in Jos that are doing the cultivation perhaps has never even stepped their feet into Abuja. You understand? So traditionally, that's how it is. Now we are talking about the value chain addition. The people that will buy from the producers, from the real farmers on the farm, should be able to add some value, process it.
We're talking of the middlemen now.
Yes. And they are supposed to be the marketers and the importers. Exporters, sorry. So these are the people that are enlightened, that have contact with the outside market. So what we want a situation whereby we train them. If you're going to take cashew nuts out of the country, package it in such a way. These are the international standards. That's how the outside world wants cashew. Most agricultural products are supposed to travel outside the country at a temperature of 14 degrees centigrade. And then test for the aflatoxin and all other things. Once you do that, it can be taken out.
I think our beans was recently banned by some parts of
About
Europe.
17 agricultural products. Yes, 17 of them, and it's very, very unfortunate.
What do you think we should do? Because we just heard of the ban. I don't know if they are talking with the authorities to review, or that it will be reviewed at the end of this month or October.
What actually happened was, most of the products taken did not meet the standards. The standards of the international market. They tell you, we want you to give us so, but then it should be in such and such form. You understand? And then in most cases, outside world is not like Nigeria, whereby you can do a little bit of short-changing, etc. It doesn't happen that way. Because once you take your product, they have to sample it also. They have to test it in the lab before they even release it into their, to their people. So now I'm talking about the exporters and then the processors. These are the small people that are doing plenty of work. They go to the villages, they buy the products, they come to their shops, and then they label it, etc. More emphasis have to be given to them. And that's where the access to credit becomes very, very important. Without finance, all these things cannot be possible.
What do you think should be done, especially just some weeks ago, perhaps around like 2 months now, the central bank did come up. I hope you heard about the ban of there's access to foreign exchange for 41 items.
Yes.
Like rice and all of that.
Exactly.
And the central bank governor at that briefing that day, I said he was very passionate. I've never seen him talk like that before in terms of how can Nigeria continue to import what we can produce. If we have rice belts around the country, there's no justification for importing rice into the country. How do we encourage local production? And that was what moved the CBN to take that decision at that time. Do you think that decisions like this would actually help the agricultural value chain
definitely
in the country? Because the CBN even had a lot of knocks
exactly.
from different quarters.
You mentioned the word passion, and I'm so happy that you mentioned it. That passion is what is driving the present government. They have a peculiar passion for agriculture. They have said it severally, and we've seen it in them.
The president is a farmer too, is he?
Yes, exactly. He's a subsistent farmer. His farm is very small.
Oh, it's a subsistent.
Exactly. He's
no,
a
but
subsistent
he can be encouraged to also go
exactly.
to commercial.
So maybe by the time...
For the fact he's a president doesn't mean he cannot continue farming, and his subsistence level should be taken to a commercial level, isn't it?
Oh, of course.
He can.
Of course. So
he can employ people like you to help him do that while he's in Villa.
But then, Nancy, access to credit. You are conversant with all the economic indicators in this country. I saw all the indices you are always dishing out. Is there any bank in Nigeria that gives a single-digit interest rate to any of the farmers? No. So you are now talking about 21%, 19%, 17% on interest for a farmer that is not even so sure of whether he's going to get the harvest successfully or not. So under such a scenario, getting it's a big thing. And then secondly, the issue of collateral. You understand, most of the farmers do not even have the certificate of occupancy of their farms. They got it from their grandparents got it from their great-great-grandparents. So there is no certificate of occupancy, and then nobody will go to your farm and then certify that this is your farm so that you can have a collateral to give you the loan, too. And then thirdly, the repaying time. In most cases, they said immediately after the harvest. So I now want to suggest to the government, give the farmers loans and then ask them to pay back in kind.
What's in kind?
You produce millet, for example. They give you loan. You get the good variety of millet, fertilizer, and everything you produce. Before you sell the millet, you harvest your millet, right? So you pay back the government in millet.
Then what does the government do with the millets that they get?
The government has to make sure that they have a very big store of food now. We just talked about the situation in the Northeast. In the next 2 months, there will be a real hunger crisis that the federal government at the center has to begin to ship food materials into the Northeast. And that's a fact. That's a fact. The 6 states in the Northeast cannot do it alone. It's too much for them. My governor in Borno State said that the state government is spending 660 million naira per month on the feeding of the IDPs in Borno State. By the time you go to Adama, you go to Bauchi, you go to Gombe, they all have the camps, and then every state governor is now being pressurized on that. Apart from the health issue, apart from the other guidance and counseling issue, so it's really a very big thing. They don't even think that in a short while the food supplies will finish because there is no farm at all.
Now, the question will be what happened to our silos? I know the last administration did talk about silos. We should also have warehousing and all of that.
We have silos all over the country. Most of them
have food in them?
Are empty. Most of them are empty.
Because sometimes if I travel by road, sometimes I was okay, let me even travel by road and see what's happening.
Yes.
Around the country. I think I was passing and I saw the silos. I was like, really, there was nothing happening there, actually.
Yeah, plenty of silos have been constructed.
And,
yeah, but then, unfortunately, most of them are empty. Now, very important, quickly, the Youth Empowerment Scheme. You understand? The statistics is 43% of the 180 million Nigerians are youths. Then 41% of the 43% of the 100 million Nigerians jobless. Then from the Federal Ministry of Education, 10.3 million Nigerian kids are out of school.
10.5, yeah.
A particular chunk from the Northeast, unfortunately. Yeah. So now the best way to capture this is, if you want to produce, for example, 75,000 jobs, we can do it in 30 days. We have 774
for
states.
Local governments.
Local governments in the country. Then ask every local government to give you unemployed youths 100, male and female. I'm just doing an analysis. Then, of course, you ask the Federal Capital Territory to give you 600. That makes complete 75,000. You now ask them on their desire, which part of agriculture do you want to go to? Somebody will say fishery, somebody will say ornamental, somebody will say sheep, somebody will say goat, you understand? Then you now put them into batches. And then you begin to train them. The training should be a practical hands-on, 70% practicals, with very minimal theory. Resource persons are all over the world, all over the country. You go to the universities, you go to the colleges of education, get the Agric people, let them come and train them. Then, for a month, they are on, and let the government give every of the graduates a starter pack. If you're going into fisheries, they should give you everything concerning the fishery that you're going to start. If you're going into cow fattening, the same thing. If you're going into horticulture, fruits, vegetables, spices, ornamentals, etc., they should just give you the starter pack, and then they should set you alone.
That means there should be a collaboration between the center, the federal government, and the state government.
Exactly. The federal government cannot do it alone, and then the state government cannot do it alone. So there has to be a synergy. And the synergy must be a very productive one now. Unlike the situation of the past, whereby at the federal level we're talking about value chain transformation, you go to the states, you find something different. We now want a situation whereby whatever that is at the federal should now flow down to all the states. And then let every state remodel whatever the federal that is doing.
Do you think that perhaps this administration should take off from where the last administration stopped in terms of Agric? Because agriculture was one of the priorities of the last government, or perhaps one of the shining lights that the past President Jonathan used to, talk about. Then when I spoke to Dr. Akim Additional, then I told him that he's one of the men that the president used to pose with. He happens to be the ADB president now. Do you understand what I mean in terms of what pockets of things that had been done in the past? Do you think this administration should take off from there? Are there some things for you that this administration should continue? If there are also some things that the present president doesn't want to continue, that he could scrap or could improve on?
I've been an agricultural lecturer for the last 24 years, and I partook in agricultural policies for the last 15 years in this country. I was a part and parcel of the transformation agenda of the Dr. Okomi. Now, if, for example, this is the document, agricultural document of the last regime, I will advise the present government to just keep it aside, and then they should come up with their own policy, because what the last regime was talking about is not in cognizance of the present status on ground. Okay. Previously, we're talking about commercial farmers, big-time farmers, take Agric as a business venture. All this is agreeable, but it's just 2% of the total number of farmers in Nigeria that are large-scale farmers. Even the definition of the large-scale farmers is somebody that has at least 100 hectares of land, 50 to about 100 hectares of land as a farm. But then 90% of all the farmers in Nigeria, they have less than 1 hectare. Some of them, in fact, even 1 acre. So the present government is talking about empowering the subsistent ones. The emphasis is now going to shift. Not the commercial-based big-time farmers, no. We want a situation whereby we now go to the real grassroots, meet the farmers on their farms, and then try to help them. That's the new thinking in government.
But should we continue to say that our local farmers should be at the subsistence level? Can't we take them from the hoe and cutlass level that they've been since I was born? Perhaps in the days of my grandfather till now, they've been farming with hoes and cutlasses. When I go to my village, it's very saddening for me that sometimes in the morning you see some people, they say, oh, we are going to the farm, and they are still, and you see rickety old men, they've been doing this for a long time. They are not even able to send their children to school adequately based on that subsistence level. So can we see a situation whereby that level can be improved? You understand what I mean, Prof? Because they say, let's concentrate on the subsistence farmers. That's what you're saying.
Some states have already started. It will amaze you. Like when you go to Adamawa State during the last regime of Nyako, they now have a single machine, just like a bike. You understand? It performs 19 different functions. It plows the land, it weeds, it applies fertilizer, it plants, it harvests, it does everything, and then I think they sold it to the farmers at subsidy rates. So the whole you're talking about, in some states, they are phasing out. But it's just a kind of collective individual things. We want a situation whereby it should be a national policy. All these things the federal government can do, and then make sure the states copy. Technological advancement and then technological development is something that can be done within a single season. All you need to do is get the equipment and then you train the farmers. Then they now take it off. Most farmers have their own bikes. Some farmers have their own trucks. You know, so if you bring a machine that the farmer should use to do this, the kids and then the farmers will instantly adopt it. So the issue again is you have to invest money into it. You have to bring in such technology. In countries like India, in countries like Pakistan, this is the kind of technology they are using. And don't forget, Nancy, the same subsistence farmers we are talking about are the ones that have been feeding this nation all this while. So we just cannot escape from them overnight. We have to empower them the more and make sure that they do better things than before, maybe at a lower level, but then at higher yields, get more seeds that are more yielding, higher yielding varieties, get better breeds of animals that will give you more milk than the president wants, get better trees, the rubber plantations you're talking about, get more trees. The oil palm, the Tenera oil palm species in Nigeria produces maybe after 12 years. By the time Malaysia picked our own, they went to Malaysia, they came out with a new variety that will give you fruits in 2 years. Now, in the horticultural subsector that I belong to, we have pawpaw that will mature in 9 months. We have guava that will mature in 9 months.
Are they genetically modified?
Yes, new breeds. And then by the time you move around, you see them all over. And people are making plenty of money out of that.
Okay. Send your comments. We just have about 2 to 3 minutes to end the show so that we can take your comments. Professor Abba Gambo, the head of the Department Crop Production, Investor of Medigree, is joining me. Prof, I can't... I would not allow you to go without asking this question because, you know, we're always talking of agriculture and our minds always go to crop production, crops. I know you're into crop production.
That's right.
But are we having a lot of concentration in terms of livestock?
Livestock, the greatest problem is the grazing system. They are taking the animals all over. The animals are supposed to be fat, but then they trek kilometers upon kilometers.
Doing
today,
exercises.
All the food they are eating is gone,
yes.
You understand? So we now want to advocate a situation whereby keep them in one place. Why are the Fulani moving from the northeast up to the south? The reasons are two. One, there is no rainfall at a particular time in the north, so they have to move to get water for their herds. Then secondly, there are no grasses. Now we want a situation whereby we call it zero grazing. You get a piece of land for them, permanent them there, build a source of water for them, and make sure you introduce some specialized grasses for them. You think they are happy moving around?
I had an announcement yesterday, I think coming from the Federal Capital Territory.
I saw it also.
Yes, that has been given to those nomadic farmers.
That they should not come in with their cattle.
They should not come into the city center. Okay, Prof, let's just take a few comments before we go. Sahel Remeka on Twitter is saying that startup fund matters a lot. CBN should amend policy to banks nationwide. Ismail Simon said the key to farmers' prosperity is the extent they can participate in determining the price of their produce. Simon saying Nancy is all about funding and making it attractive for Nigerians. Hiki Haka is saying your guest makes a lot of sense. Relevant authorities must make the processes easier. Lots of bottleneck and financial disincentives. While lastly, Mwagu is saying for value added, middlemen should partner with agricultural cooperatives and a thrift fund by local farmers on 70-30 basis in their farms. On Facebook, Sariki Hazel is saying, I would like the government to look at the Land Use Act to help correct abnormalities. That's also key. Abdul Hamid is of the view that his expectation is that food processing companies should be established to discourage importation. Prof, what's your parting word? President Buhari is here to announce his ministers. What kind of Minister of Agriculture are you looking for?
We want to see a practicing farmer, very enlightened, a technocrat as a Minister of Agriculture. We don't want a situation whereby you go and bring one politician to be the Minister of Agriculture. No. No. We want somebody that is well versed in the field to come in. Somebody that is already familiar with the terrain. You understand? That is my final word. And I want to ask a final question. Okay. Why is your show very participation. You know, the comments are coming in all the
Prof, thank you very much for coming on the show. All right, that's the much you can take on today's edition. Professor Gambo has joined me. We've been looking at investing in the agricultural sector value chain. Thank you for your comments. Please join us again tomorrow. Do the best you can do. Do the change you also want to see. I am Nancy. God bless Nigeria. Bye, everyone.